Welcome back to Gears 5, and
Yeah, that's right. You're the protagonist, Kait. I almost forgot.
I mean, well, considering how much you complain so far, Jova, it will be hard to forget that.
Okay. Here's
That's the thing to you. Kate's not really that memorable a protagonist in the long run.
If it's memorable enough for you to not like her, those two things are mutually exclusive.
Yeah, but she's voiced by Laura Bailey, so she goes up a point.
Yeah,
the video.
No, the game had to pause to load. See, the thing is, I'm playing the game on an original 2014 Xbox One. And it's clear that this game was optimized for the Xbox One X.
Okay, so you made a giant open world that can still cause the stuff to pause to load, and again, there's not much to do with it. I think that says more about you, game.
No, this is the technical issue that, you guys probably should have, either optimize your game better for all platforms that you're putting it in, or I feel like they probably focus, this is our big tentpole game for 2019, so we have to make it a showpiece for the Xbox One X. I'm all okay for that, but you also need to pay mind to the optimization of the 2014 model.
I feel like Sony handled
Pedro,
the whole...
Hey, Pedro,
yes?
You have to buy an Xbox Series X, now available in retail stores if you can find one.
Sure. No, here's the thing. Allow me. See. Let me. Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima runs pretty much equally on PS4 and PS4 Pro. Obviously, it runs double frame rate on PS5 because the PS5 is powerful enough to render that open world in all that close frame rate. But the point is, there was a good optimization for even the base console, despite being the late gen game and everything. And it looks great. It's open world. Wait, it's way more open than this game in particular. So it's not like you can't do this thing. It's just that, I get the feeling the Coalition didn't really have the time to do so because the 3 years of development probably wasn't enough for what they wanted to do with this. Again, this is when they should have realized that they should have scrapped the quote-unquote open areas because they're more of a hindrance than a benefit, if you ask me, to be honest with you.
I'm actually kind of surprised.
Too far in development for them to scrap it.
That potentially, but I also get the idea that it was again, this mandate just to be a technical showcase of how the Unreal 4 could handle a more open style area for this kind of gameplay, akin to what the previous game had tried to do with experimenting on things. However, again, the major complaint seems to be the same, the idea that just by not adding that much, it means that it's only that, just an experiment. They should probably just put a time trial instead of side
Not only
quests.
that,
I think they should have said this for Skier 6.
Not only that...
Go ahead.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
But some of these areas are just wide open fields of nothing. It's basically, look at this long pile of snow. It all looks the same. Sure, yeah, there are eventually some differentiating textures, but for a lot of the section with the skiffs, it's snow. Congrats, you can render snow. And yeah, I get it. Maybe it's just for this locale, but, when you have to use the skiff, it's normally over portions of land that you're going to be skipping anyway because you're moving fast, so... I'm kind of getting a bit of crossed wires with how much they wanted people to appreciate the supposed stuff that they can do with it. And yeah, don't get me wrong, there are definitely good... there's good stuff to look at, but it doesn't feel like they have their heads on straight with the priorities here. Which makes me do wonder if maybe they had a different idea, but midway through development had to completely change stuff up.
I will say that I actually did somewhat like that transition we just saw, where it's clear that bit where Kait was looking, that animation was clearly just a disguised loading time. But the game did a good job of seamlessly hiding the load time. That was fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised we haven't gotten a what happened episode of this game yet. Let's say the ingredients.
There's not much to talk about. Really.
That's the thing. There's not that much interesting stuff to talk about this game's development, Joe. But to be honest with you, not that I'm aware of, at least. Because
Also, he doesn't just look at disasters. Like, for example, he did do a What Happened of the Doom 2016 game.
I mean,
turned out
that
to be
game
good.
went through development hell.
But that's exactly the point, the
my
idea.
point, though. I
That's
mean,
the idea, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
developed...
was there any, the development hell behind this game?
No, there wasn't.
Oh, yeah, well, okay.
Well, not that we know of, at least. Was there? Do we know anything? I don't know.
As far as we know, there was something that went wrong that caused them to have to delay the game a lot. Like, remember, Pedro, a lot of people were raising concerns about the fact that this game was constantly getting delayed.
Well, okay, this game was announced at E3 2018, and it came out over a year and a half later. Just how... It couldn't have been that bad.
Well, actually, Pedro, I recall you showing me videos about people raising concerns about this game constantly getting...
Well, yeah, but not related to delays, though.
Granted, that was partially also because the Xbox One really needed a new killer app or something, but okay, there have been raises for causing concern. One thing we have to remember, though, is that the purpose of a What Happened episode is to reveal development hell. Like, there have been some cases where people legit did not know about the development hell or what exactly was going on, but What Happened just revealed that. Especially did like their episodes based on the Hero Trail Sky Steel series. God.
The Legend of Heroes trails in the sky.
Trials. It's trials in
Trails.
the sky.
It's Trails, Edge. Sorry.
I'm telling you, it's trials.
Whatever.
Why did you look it up?
Regardless, my point being is like, well, this game does feel like something where there could have been stuff going behind it, because, well, for as much as I do have to critique about this game, I do get the feeling that maybe they had a clear idea at first, because some of the story earlier on seems to suggest it, but then either they had to rush it, or some change in management, or some change in direction happened.
Honestly, Jova, I'm gonna have to say that I personally think they didn't really have a plan. The fact that they built up a family conflict between JD and Marcus, only to immediately drop that for a Kait-focused storyline in this game, tells me that they had just as much of a plan as Kathleen Kennedy had with the new trilogy. They're just
that's sort of my point. It's like, well, it feels like they had the semblance of a plan at first, but then they abandoned it for something else. Like, I do wonder if something went on in the development of this game, because, okay, for as much problems as Gears 4 had, at least its story felt like it was concentrated. I didn't like it, but it felt concentrated. This story, nah. It feels like there's a definite lack of focus in regards to...
Did I say trails or trials?
It's because
trials.
It's because again, I'll talk about this more. I'll talk about this more when we finish Act 2. But I'll just say that Act 2, on its own, could have been like a bonus side episode or something like that. But that's all I'll say for now.
I'll say this though. Everwild definitely deserves a What Happened immediately, just for the sake that they have admitted that even they don't know,
okay,
or at least didn't
to
know
be fair,
what that game was going
to be fair, Jova, that was a year ago. That might have changed at this point.
I know, but what I'm saying is like, well, I mean, kudos to them for being transparent, but admitting that even you don't know what your game is going to be when you show a trailer, that's
That takes cojones, mi amigo.
Wasn't that Rare?
Yes,
that game that they
yes,
showed off?
Rare. Basically, last year when they showed Everwild for the second time at the Xbox Showcase back in July of 2020, there was an interview from one of the designers saying that they're still experimenting with gameplay ideas for Everwild. So basically, they themselves still
just showed us a tech demo.
Basically, yeah.
I guess
that's Rare, alright.
this game that we're playing right now, Gears 5, it really does give me the semblance that something went on in development. Don't get me wrong, the direction was probably rotten from the get-go, but I legit want to know what went on with this game, because this game, it functions properly, but all the other aspects of it feel so much weaker than any other Gears game that's come before. Well, except for maybe gameplay compared to Gears of War Judgment, but that's like the bare minimum.
I guess
Other
I'll...
than that, it,
Sorry, sorry.
other than that, it definitely feels like the weakest Gears game there is.
It's mostly because... see, here's the thing. Here's the thing about it. The game doesn't really do a good job. Again, like I said, I was talking about Tom, but that's it. As I was saying, Tom Bissell. Tom Bissell. Okay, maybe he's better at writing other things. I don't know, but I don't really want him writing any more Gears games after this. To be honest with you.
Maybe his
Nah,
ears were at a stop when he was writing this.
No, it's like. Here's the basic gist of it, Dej. Like in his first attempt with Gears of War Judgment, he made Cole boring, which to me is cardinal sin, because Cole is my favorite Gears character.
Yeah.
And in 4, again, I can't think of even a good, funny, witty line in Gears 4. To be honest with you, I'm trying to come up with one.
Gears 4 is literally the equivalent of, hello, fellow kids, how do you do?
This game, to its credit, does have that sequence with Baird and Iris, aka his AI that he created. And that's it, really. After that, like, I'm not even kidding. Like, that sequence feels like it was written by a different person. I'm not even kidding. Like, none of the banter between the characters. Let's talk about the banter between Kait and Del here.
That's clever. You can shoot the ice.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is. Again, the gameplay of this game is perfectly fine. It's serviceable.
Even if it can get a bit padding at times, but yeah, it is definitely serviceable.
Yes. Let's take a look at the banter between Kait and Del here. Kait is about as interesting as a piece of toast. Del is he's there, I guess.
I guess you could argue that he has some lines that do seem to suggest hidden depths, but not much else. I'll say this also. Doesn't it feel weird that for a good chunk of the game we only have 2 characters bouncing between each other? Compare this to, say, Gears, where it was usually at least 4 characters bouncing off of each other.
Yeah.
Which meant that this could be great for banter and dialogue.
Not just that.
They're on different accounts.
To add what Joe was saying, yeah, we did have that bit in Act 1 where they establish that, like, he still feels bad because of those open protesters that got killed. And then we have that reveal that JD was involved in all that shit. But the game pretty much abandoned that, and it's not really gonna bring it back anyway. Not for the most part.
To do with his later character development.
Not for the most part, really. There's going to be one more mention of it, but that's about it. The game doesn't really explore that topic. It just mentions it, and now we have this big intermission starring Kait. Like Jova said, the story feels so unfocused.
That's a good lead into something I wanted to say earlier, because we've talked a lot about Kait, but even the established characters haven't done anything that interesting aside from the 2 you mentioned earlier.
No, not really.
It's
like
they couldn't figure out what to do with them past their original arcs or whatever they went through. And it's like no one's really been that interesting.
Look at Marcus. Marcus, I mean, we ended his arc was supposed to end in 3 as the original creator intended, but now that the series is being continued on by the mandate of Microsoft, Marcus is just kind of there, like, in the same way, in the same way that the Star Wars older characters in the new trilogy are just kind of there,
until they die.
A better thing to do is make it new set of characters, new enemies, take it place in the same universe, but have nothing to do.
Yeah,
you can bring Marcus and others as cameos, but for that.
It's ironic, Dej, because up until they brought
Habitat far into the
hold on, Vision,
where they're long dead.
Oh, hey, Reina.
Kait, wow, like she doesn't even know you. No, it's Reina. It's Reina that's speaking. Sorry, apologies. Yeah. I thought it was Myrna.
Nah, it's Reina.
Okay, Pedro. I think I said this in the last part. but I get the feeling that one of these hallucinations is going to result in her killing someone in the real world by mistake.
We already did that.
I didn't quite hear an answer though.
Oscar, the uncle.
Yeah. It kind of already happened. Remember, the uncle died.
That was the entire point in at the start of Act 2.
Well,
I know this plot isn't really that interesting, so I can't blame him entirely.
No, well, this forgets about everything anyway. That's just him.
Kate had a full-on breakdown about it, though.
I guess you could argue that was Kate
did, not you.
No, Kate. Well, that's the thing, Shiroi. I don't think this is very interested in Kate as a character, but whatever. The point is.
Okay. To be fair to Kate, everyone in these past two games is uninteresting.
Exactly.
The only thing I remember about anything that had to do with Tom Bissell writing a Gears game is that arsehole sexy colonel who literally said to one of the main characters, "Leave this to men with bars."
Yes.
I remember you showing me that clip.
You know what's sad, honestly? He had more of a character arc than JD is going to have in this game. God damn.
Well, okay. Here's just to finish my earlier thing. Okay.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing with Tom Bissell. Okay. The thing is problem. The thing with
oh dear.
Hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Go on.
Oh, okay. The way you were talking, it sounded like you were.
You did. Go on.
Okay. Okay. The point is, I just don't think Tom Bissell is very good at writing the kind of awesome quips that we love to have in these games between characters, like we saw in the original trilogy. We don't the dialogue is too dry. It's so and it's just like let me put it like
I wonder if he's a better story writer than he is a character and dialogue writer.
That's the thing, Jova. Again, what baffles me the most is how he wrote. Okay, that scene with Iris and Baird shows that he can write good, regardless of the character. Because even Iris had some really great, awesome lines in that scene. So if he can write those two characters with good quips, why can't he do good quips for these characters? That's what I don't understand. What happened? What exactly happens?
They're new characters, while they're apart takes from the old guard, meaning that again, a theory that I had since Gears 4. These new characters are meant to represent the new archetype, quote unquote, of heroes more associated with pop culture of the early 2000s onward, while the old guard was more representative of the 80s. I get the idea they wanted to differentiate that kind, and again, we generally believe that kind of banter that Kate, JD, and the others have they'll have between each other has to be a separate category, and it just works on its own.
So, like I said, it's literally about hello, fellow kids, how do you do? The older guard.
For a crude term, humor segregation.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
it's just okay. Fine. You want these characters to not behave like 80s action heroes, like the Delta Squad did. Okay. The problem is that. Okay. So you don't want to have banter be the focus. Okay. I guess. Sure. Fine. Okay. You took out the banter. Are you going to put something else in its place? Because the characters, the lack of focus of the story makes it really hard for me to tell which specific arc I'm supposed to be actually caring about right now, and the characters just aren't all that interesting. Even regardless of the lack of quips, I'm talking about also their personalities. They're just Kate is just kind of seriously. Here, I'm gonna give you the Star Wars Red Letter Media question. Okay, Jova, describe to me Kate's character without mentioning how she looks physically and the role she plays in the movie. Describe to her as a person. Describe her to someone who's never even heard of Gears of War.
Am I supposed to make her sound good, or am I supposed to
just describe her objectively? Describe her character traits, her personality traits, something that actually what makes her a distinct person. Just describe her.
Well, at first it seemed like she was just another member in the group, but now they've introduced these new qualities where apparently she wants to avenge stuff, people here and there. And you know what? Maybe that could be an interesting motive. Except they don't really bake it up much. It's just, I must avenge my uncle. I must avenge my mother. Oh, also she whines a bit here and there too. She can get very, very, very pissy with a lot of other characters. And pretty much with anyone who's not Del or Marcus, she gets into fights with a lot.
Compare this to Baird. If you ask me to describe Baird, I can immediately start describing. Well, okay, he's a scientist. He knows he's even though he's also good with weapons. He's a kind of an asshole who likes to rag and behave bad. Like even though he likes Sam, he still really is very mean is too strong a word. Like he likes to. He likes to tease her. I guess that's the best way I can put it. You know.
Is he that smart Alec who is way too smart for his own good and can't get along with others because of his? Yeah.
Exactly. And
TMNT has a character in the comics just like that.
Sure, and it's like actually speaking of the scientist angle, there's another thing about Del that I forgot to mention. Del, the game does mention how Del does know his way. He's supposed to be in the same way that Baird was the tech guy. Del is also knowledgeable about technology, and so he's supposed to be kind of the tech guy of this new group. The problem is that unlike the original trilogy, in where Baird was a big contributor with his intelligence to a lot of problems, this new this new games don't really do that much with his with Del's tech skills. I mean, yeah, like we're gonna have some bits in this game. Don't get me wrong, but the game doesn't use that part of his personality at all. It's his one major trait, and the games barely use it.
If I may. It's like how I mentioned, compare the 2010s version of Rad to the 90s version of Rad. As you may recall from our Frozen 2010 commentary, I pretty much described the 2010s version of Rad as Rad Extreme, but not too rad. No. We want to show that we're still down to earth, but we can be cool still, whereas the 90s completely threw themselves into the Rad identity here. I get the semblance that that's kind of what they're doing with the characters here. Like, oh, see, Del's a nerd. They burst out there.
Okay.
But basically, it's like, Del's a nerd, but he's not too nerdy, not like this. And Kait, she does things like, okay, comparing her to Marcus had so much character, so much backstory surrounding him. And yes, you could argue that we are giving Kait backstory, except not really, because most of the backstory goes to her grandmother more than Kait herself, really.
Well, I do have an idea, Joe, but first go on.
Like, and don't get me wrong, if we do something with it, it's interesting, but I'll just let you know, we don't really learn much more of Kait than we already do know. It's mainly about Myrna. And don't get me wrong, honestly, it makes me wonder if the devs wanted to make a game where we play as Myrna instead, like, because they crafted a lot for Myrna in this game, which makes Kait feel more like the vessel for this thing than an actual player.
Oh, sure.
That's not always a bad idea. Like, I mean, you could argue that Link in the Legend of Zelda games is more so the vessel for the character and the story here. But here's the thing. Even in a lot of games, Link himself does still get character stuff. In Twilight Princess, he has the fact that he has to sort of work up to, you know, the works of his ancestors here and there.
Both him and Midna have some good moments.
Yeah, like, a lot of the game does rely on their relationship. Here, honest to God, if you were just starting this game, would you believe that Kait was really good friends with Del? And I'm not even going to bother asking you if you think that she's good friends with JD, because those two are practically hostile from the start in this
It's
game.
more like colleagues than anything.
Yeah, basically. It's because...
And that's the thing, Shiroy, where the game wants us to believe that they're the best of friends, which is, well, compared to the original trilogy, a really hard thing you're asking of me. Like, the cast of the original trilogy, even when they first met, I could get how they became thick as thieves over the course of stuff.
Not just
But
that,
not
like...
so much with these guys.
Not just that, like...
It's kind of the Mortal Kombat 10 situation where, like, after the first chapter, for some reason, there's hostility towards Johnny and Sonya for no explanation. They got a divorce, but it's like, we don't like each other. Especially Sonya, who's just
I'm really not a fan of that being like, hey, you know that ship that everyone likes? Let's divorce them because that supposedly gives them more character.
I mean, they
do
got
get
back together in the end.
Yeah. The entire
True, yeah,
point
they
is for them
do.
to actually rediscover their love.
Yeah, true, and and for that, I'll give Mortal Kombat 10 credit.
If
but it's
anything,
like,
it doesn't even take that much because remember, it's something that happens in the past. So during the flashback sequence, which they don't get that much to do, and it gets kind of resolved where Johnny gets killed by Quan Chi, is almost turned into a revenant, and Sonya has to save him by stomping Quan Chi's crotch with a QT. Yes, it is that also. But
yeah.
But instead, repeat me the question from before, Pedro, just so I don't understand it more correctly.
Sure. Wait, I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood.
The question regarding what is a character and everything in regards to Kait.
No, what I mean, no, what I mean is to like describing her.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
I meant describing her personality traits. Like is she like what kind of person is she?
She is a rebel against authority.
Okay, that's cool.
A trait inherited probably by her mother. And constantly through both the previous game and probably this one, we get to see the fact that regarding our situation, she wants to prioritize something that she believes to be a greater good rather than a direct order, which is something that is in contrast both with the lore, against, technically, something akin to the lore, aka the new government, which the game doesn't even, shy away to treat it as if a bad thing, because it's more of an authoritarian dictatorship. And I get the idea against her fate, because if we keep going with the parallel of idea of this worm trying to make her the new Locust Queen, she will probably have the conclusion of her arc, her rejecting her role because her willpower is more strong than that.
Okay, I would agree with you with her being a rebel against authority. Here's the thing, though. She pretty much follows Marcus's orders, more often than not.
Well, Marcus himself is also a rebel against authority. When you
It's
get
not
down to it.
sure. It's my thing is that there's not really enough story in this game to really explore that. There's not a moment where the characters actually we don't actually explore those things. And yes, you are right about those things, but the problem is that the story doesn't really do a good job in conveying all of that. Let me give you an example from the original trilogy. In the original trilogy, we have Marcus literally lead the Delta Squad inside a rift worm because he thinks, okay, we have a chance of killing it here. Let's do it. Despite going, of course, this is something that's not exactly according to orders, and it's like this really cool sequence that really shows that. Whereas, as right now, I don't. Okay, so Kait is a rebel against authority, but I have yet to see her do something aside from, of course, disobeying JD earlier. Like, I still do, and the thing about this entire act, which is I guess supposed to be that. It's nowhere near. It doesn't do a good enough job of showing it as well as the Rift Worm, because the dialogue is just dry. I think it all boils down to execution, because I will argue that the original trilogy executed it better with better writing in general.
The pacing also doesn't help. Again, look at the original Gears trilogy. We had mission chapter after chapter, which showed Marcus sometimes agreeing, but a lot of times butting heads with his higher authority figures. But you could see where Marcus was coming from. Arguably, with the way Kait and company handle it is like this one time, then not much, then this other time, then blank air. And that's the thing, even sometimes, you can't really always agree with Kait in this regard. With Marcus, you got where he was coming from, you got the point. And yeah, you could argue that some of it was a bit cliched. It still made sense story-wise. Here, what Kait is doing, yeah, so she wants to find out answers about herself, true, but
while also protecting the others from herself, since she doesn't know more about this condition.
That's what I was about to get at, though. The story doesn't really do a good job explaining how it supposedly is that much of a danger. Like, sure, yeah, we can infer that apparently she killed Oscar and whatever, but what, was she controlling that locust, or was it all in a vision? that stuff is not portrayed well or clear enough, I would argue.
Also, why didn't she tell anybody from the start, especially if they're supposed to be close friends?
I get the idea
it's
JD
supposed to
would
be
have tried to
conflict
arrest
and
her in
That-
the case.
That's the thing, Dej. From the very beginning of the game, Kait is having nightmares and headaches, but she doesn't actually say it until that one part that we watched, where Oscar died. You know, like she just, no, it's okay. It's just a headache. Blah blah blah. So
I still feel like plots would be better if the characters talk, and the more interesting thing is how they work together to resolve it.
yeah,
But no,
I
they
agree.
have to
Agree
have
with
that
that.
conflict.
Yeah, I agree with Dej because that would also give us more better character moments. We could see how the characters respond to it. Instead, it's just that split second, then we're off to the races.
it's
You
like
know,
go ahead, Shuri.
Yeah, Shuri?
Yes, Shuri. Go
This
ahead.
is something I wanted to bring up earlier as well, but I kind of held off on it. It's like at times like this when they're just walking around doing nothing, I would very much like to hear the banter that we get in some Uncharted games.
Sure,
I
that's
agree. Like,
the same
let
thing
us
that
know what
the original
characters are
trilogy did.
thinking.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the original trilogy did as well. There was plenty of fun banter in between sections like these in the original trilogy. That's my issue. Like the script in this game is so fucking dry. Like
Like, yeah, it really does feel bare bones in comparison to the original trilogy. Like, banter does help stave off the boredom. Heck, sometimes even use banter as a way to hide loading screens or whatnot. Like, sure, they may not all be winners, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm beginning to feel like even Gears 4 had more banter in it than this game. Again, it probably helped that we at least had a full team more often than not in Gears 4. Here, it's just these two for this long stretch.
I think, okay, aside from the bad writing bit, I get one idea why it is like this. It is something compared also, sorry, not compared, but connected to Gears 4 to an extent. Essentially, one particular theme that is present that is very different from the original trilogy. The original trilogy was about, again, like Pedro said, humanity coming together, defeating the Locust, and having a war with no more traffic accident and blah, blah, blah. It was about hope in the face of desperation. Here, instead, the tone seems to be more pessimistic, for lack of a better term.
yeah, I agree.
Which is ironic because
I don't mean just about the divide. I
Let him
don't mean
finish,
just
Jova.
about
Go ahead.
friends and nations dividing again from each other. That is a consequence at worst. It's more the fact that while there is the new threat that keeps rising, and the characters do actively push it back, and we do seem to have successes. They do seem to be pushing more of an idea that it's all worthless in the end. I don't know. Maybe that is the thing that I got. This does not help by the fact that, again, the new world, quote unquote, that Marcus and the other, including his father, fought to create at the end of by the end of 3, plus the side material, turned out to be for the worst because it gave rise to authoritarian governments. So I get the idea that there is some sort of social critique that is being pushed in these new games, and that is one of the reasons why the dialogue and the characters get damaged as a result.
That's
guess
actually an interesting thing there, but
I
think
guess
that
it's
does raise
possible.
That
But
does raise a bit of an issue, though. Why, though? I mean, why okay, I get why some people do it.
Like
to
any
supposedly
kind of
add-
subtext that is pushed behind a writer, personal beliefs injected into the story. Like, sure, agree with them or not, or like the opposite. But I get the idea that it's probably that. If you want just to ask, why a thing is like that.
I guess that
I think my issue is that, well, if that is the reason, it feels like there's not enough substance to really justify it. Like, yeah, I can get why they did it, but at the end of the day, it just makes stuff feel ironically more miserable in what's the more colorful looking games than the original trilogy, which was supposed to be grim, dark, and everything. But arguably, those games felt more upbeat than these, which suggests that, oh, the victory you got was but a hollow one. Oh, even Anya was terrible. She kept secrets as the first minister, which doesn't make any goddamn sense if you know how Anya's character was.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pedro.
No. I'm with Jova on that. No.
Don't. Oh, sorry.
I will also say that okay, you want to explore that kind of topic. That's cool, I guess, but I don't see the purpose of changing gears into that. Like, I don't see the point. Okay, that was unintentional. I swear. Yeah.
So?
Yeah, we're about to expose it to a ton of ice.
Oh god, the pun made him lose track.
Yeah.
No, I think it's because
it's
there's a cutscene.
Cutscene touch.
Yeah.
What are you
So
waiting
basically,
on?
this bomb feeds off of oxygen and ice stuff.
There you go. See, he's the science guy. But the problem is that, like I said, the Tom uses that particular trait of his so little.
You may want to stand a bit back, Morgan, Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that was kind of funny.
Yeah, a bit more.
Yeah, nope.
Safety first.
You're saying
Oh my
that because you
God.
don't have a helmet. So.
Oh my god, a funny interaction between these two, finally!
See, Kate, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Oh,
Kate.
fuck.
Oh.
Oh.
This is what I was talking about. Yeah, like this would
Maybe
happen.
we should have waited until we were completely clear.
Oh, we got those
guys.
lights actually. I thought it was going to melt instead.
All right, here we are.
I thought they were gonna fall into
Oh,
the
is
into
it
the freezing
this
cold water. I thought they were gonna fall into the freezing cold water and die of hypothermia.
Dirtier
boy.
little secrets.
Yes, in the next part we finally find out the big secret, the dirty little secret, as the chapter title just implied. Just to finish my point, though, okay, I just don't understand the point of changing this franchise. There you go. Now I avoided it this time. Changing just to turn it into that. Okay, you want to explore that in the story. Okay, cool. I just don't see the point in putting that into Gears because I don't know, like
your own original franchise to do that.
it's like okay, let me use again the like for example, like look is again, it boils down to the same thing with the new trilogy, whereas the original Star Wars trilogy is very hopeful in the way it portrays its story, its themes, its characters, all that stuff. The new trilogy is so again there's so many it's incredible the parallels I can make to these new games with the new trilogy. These games on the other hand are much more pessimistic, much more Debbie Downers, I guess that's the best way I can put it. Like light up, like it's
Again,
just,
that quote from Batman. My God, lighten up a little, will ya? You look positively cream.
Here's the thing, Kate. Would it kill you to smile or lighten up? I know that things are heavy, but
Okay, yes. I'll say that off commentary.
okay. Tune in next time, everybody. We're for the big thing, I guess. Seeing big.
Secrets, see
So,
ya.
go ahead.
See ya.
So yeah.